Hey folks, you are listening to WPVM 103.7 FM in Asheville. You can listen online at WPVMFM.org. I'm Abby the Spoon Lady, and we've got Phil Krell in here. I want to say hi.
Hey guys.
Now, Phil, you do street poetry.
Yes, I do poetry on demand for people.
Now, what exactly does this entail?
So I sit out with my typewriter, and as people come up, I start off with them giving me a topic. I generally suggest that it be kind of vague, giving me a little room to work in, but that it has to be extremely important to them. The more it hits home with them, the better. And then after that, I'll have a conversation, ask questions, get to know them and how that topic relates to them, what it means to them. And in the end, people end up doing more work than they actually think they were going to. And that's cool because it challenges them to think a little deeper about their own lives. And they inspire me. I feed off their energy. And then after that, it takes me only a minute or two to kind of flow with it and write them a full-length poem.
That's awesome. Now, I bet that's a real brain exercise for you. I bet that takes a lot of practice.
Absolutely. I spend all day reading and writing. That's like my passion. That's all I really care to do.
Now, are you published?
I am not. I'm
You're
working on that
it?
now. Yeah.
All right, folks, listen. Tag your publisher friends on all these posts. I have posted his Instagram account on our Busker broadcast page, so you can already go on there and follow him. I'm already following him. So if you want your friends to think you're cool, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But as far as bringing poetry on the street, I'm guessing that that's kind of a difficult thing at times. I mean...
Absolutely. I mean...
What's that like?
As far as like the response I get from like people passing by.
Yeah.
Well, what's really cool about it is, yes, there's a lot of people that are like poetry, like they're very resistant to it. A lot of people only their closest memory of poetry would either be rap or hip hop, which is very different than what I do, or failing their tests in high school on Shakespeare. So this is kind of cool. It brings it home. Where like rather than about some subject they don't understand or phrased in some way they don't know, I can kind of, through talking to whoever I'm writing for, adopt their vernacular, use the words that they use, and use words that would be like their reading level. And like obviously if I write something for a kid, it would be way different than English major kids or like a teacher. And so it makes it more personal for them, and I hope to kind of broaden their horizons in the field of poetry.
You're a professional people watcher.
Oh, absolutely. I love observing.
Yeah, sometimes I'll talk about the psychology of busking, and there's some really intense subjects just within psychology of street performance, and it's pretty interesting watching the things that people react to and the things that catch people's attention, and how you can use those things to entertain and inspire people. It's really cool the way that you've used this all these aspects of that psychology to reach people on such a personal level. That's awesome.
Definitely. I'm in love with it. Like if I'm in a bad mood, like I will go out there and busk even if it's on a slow day, there's nobody in the streets. If there's the opportunity that one person might stop, because I just love it, man. It's
Now, do you feel like having other buskers around you is helpful? Like the busier it is out, is there busy times for you, like the way it is for musicians? Do you see why I'm asking?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
During the day?
Yeah, I enjoy having musicians around, mainly because it, like musicians or me, like if either group gathers a crowd, you know, and then it's like a duplicitous thing. Like you can enjoy the music while with me there's a little wait time. There's some quiet, and so they can enjoy the music while they're enjoying what I have to offer. I can also kind of flow with it while they're playing music. I mean, of course, it depends what kind of music's being played, but yeah, it's a really cool experience being able to set up near a musician and see how their particular type of music will inspire what I write.
Oh, that's cool. That's real cool. Do you have any thing you want to share?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, again, folks, if you're just now tuning in, we got Phil Krell here, and we have put links to his Instagram on our Busker broadcast page. So you should go on there like cool people do and subscribe to us and subscribe to him and let your friends know you're cool, like we are cool.
So I have a few things. Could we maybe, like, do you want me to share them all right now? Or kinda...
It's up to you.
Okay.
This is your time.
All right. Well, we can try this one now and kind of see how that goes.
Cool.
So I wrote this morning. With fiery gaze, I will warm you until the barren sand you call a soul is forged into glass, fragile, yet rapturous, beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, I like to play with different styles based on what poets I read. That was very much inspired by a French poet named Arthur Rimbaud. He kind of mixes classical with the more raw, visceral, more contemporary. And so that's kind of what I was doing there. He had a philosophy that you couldn't just be a poet. Like a poet and a visionary went hand in hand, so they had to talk about very mystic ideas.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what necessarily are your influences?
Well, definitely, I like to try and find a middle ground between the Beat generation, who you had a very raw, very visceral. They focused a lot on stream of consciousness, where it's just more like thinking, not so much like being refined, where you have these complex rhyme schemes or meter structures, but just getting it out there. And then I also like the very classical, like Robert Frost or Rimbaud, Dante, Goethe, Milton. Like my favorite, one of my favorite books is the epic poem Paradise Lost by Milton. Very classical, very beautiful, and I feel like there's a middle ground that's really where I find my style, where it's you take these beautiful words and these amazing ways of the very complicated structures, but then at the same time let it naturally unravel and become this visceral kind of stream of consciousness. Like, I don't know, I'm like putting a lot of thought into it, trying to build that up. I'm working on it.
Yeah, brick by brick,
Mm-hmm.
word by word. I think it's really, really awesome what you're doing. It's a real neat way to perform in general. And you don't see it too often. You see it once in a while, but not too often. And so I'm kind of wondering, as you're doing this on the street, do you have like I'm trying to compare it to what it is for me with music, and trying to compare the two a little bit. And so I'm wondering, as I'm sure you do, you have folks repeatedly coming up to you, like regulars, to stop and talk, and I'm guessing that for some of your followers, this might even be more of a therapy session for them, a way to talk some things through.
I've made that joke quite a few times, that I'm kind of a sidewalk therapist. And I mean, honestly, that's my favorite type of person to walk up, where it's not just something novel, it's not a gimmick to them. It's like, because I'm some random guy on the sidewalk, they can tell me pretty much anything. And I've had people share like very heavy subjects with me. And honestly, my favorite type of person is someone who, for whatever reasons, walking around by themselves, and they're kind of in their head. You can tell just by their face that there's a lot going on in there. And I don't know, like just recently, I wrote a poem for this girl. Her passion was ballet. And it was cool because they stayed at the hostel I work at. I was hanging out with her mom, and her mom was telling me some of the struggles she has were like growing up in her area, not a lot of kids are into books or reading or intelligence in general.
Yeah.
And so I was able to, show her that, or tell her that that's okay, that she's not alone in that. And for me, like, it's a kind of like a full circle thing. Like, as a kid, I was very similar. Like, I didn't have anyone that believed or thought what I thought was cool, like reading and all that. I was awash in sports, which I never understood, And I don't know, it's just very cool that now I can kind of be there for like younger versions of me.
Yeah. Yeah. When folks see folks doing creative and personal things on the street, I think it inspires other people to come out and show themselves a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, spreads those seeds of creativity. And I guess that's what you're doing every time you pass out a poem, is planting that seed.
Definitely. If like 2 years ago you would have told me that full time I sit out and hand people stuff I've written, oh my God, I would have freaked out.
Would it have felt intimidating?
Absolutely. Like I used to not share anything I ever wrote. Like that was all for me. And it's funny, like doing this, I've also become more talkative, more gregarious. Like I'm naturally very introverted, but now when I'm sitting out with a typewriter, I can talk up a storm because it skips the small talk, where it's like I'm presenting you as I am, and so we skip right to a conversation that actually matters, and it's just the best way to talk for me, at least.
It's pretty intense. Now, I'm assuming that you've gotten some interesting things as tips as you've been out. Folks trading things for poems or so on and so forth.
Definitely. I'm trying to think. It's funny, like, now that you ask me, all the memories rush from my head.
Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot. It's kind of cool, though, folks in Asheville are very, very inviting and welcoming and kind, and so it's really kind of cool. Sometimes folks will put, in my case, they'll put things like stones and rocks and pictures and drawings and trinkets and toy cars.
Definitely. I have a collection of art that was traded to me. Like other people will write poems and then hand it to me, or drawings of me. My the area I sleep in the hostel is covered. Like I put it all over the wall because it's like a morning inspiration, and it's really cool. One of my favorite pieces. Have you ever met Isabel? She plays the hurdy-gurdy.
Yes. Shout out to Isabel.
Yeah. She drew me just a real simple little picture, and that always makes me smile. Like, she's such a cool kid. Such
her
a cool
birthday's
kid.
coming up, and she wants
really?
yarn.
Yarn. Okay.
So if y'all know Isabel with the hurdy-gurdy, if you want to send me a message, we're putting together a package of yarn for her. Abby Spoonlady @gmail.com.
I'll definitely contribute.
I'm going to get her a big old bag of yarn. Watch her.
Very cool.
And we'll get her in here also for this broadcast. Now, as far as Busker politics, have you been paying attention to some of these things that have been going on?
I have. I read the breakdown of what they were talking about the last time that City Council met, or was it the Public Safety Commission? Is that what it was called?
The Public Safety Committee.
Mm-hmm. And so I went to that. Unfortunately, I had to leave early, like right as the more important part started. But I feel like I understood the basic gist of it, and I definitely got. It made me want to participate a bit more in that, and just be more alert, more aware, more present, and so.
Well, I'll make sure to add you to our invite lists for our Buskers Collective meetings.
Okay.
And folks, if you're listening here and you're suddenly going, how can I get involved? We do post our meetings on our Asheville Buskers Collective Facebook page, and we do post them on avlbuskers.org. So if this is something you're interested in getting involved in, you do not have to be a busker to get involved. So yeah, this is how you do it.
Definitely.
Sign up and subscribe to the Asheville Buskers Collective events. Now, as far as that meeting, Paul Featherston, who's our assistant city manager, was he was proposing to schedule us and put us in confined spaces that could or limit the number of buskers that could be in one space. And amongst these proposals were also 100-foot distance restrictions, which we're still very, very nervous about with our buskers, because this could hurt a lot of our buskers.
Absolutely.
Very intensely. But it looks like our council members really listened to us at that meeting and have tabled the majority of the things proposed by city staff and Paul Featherston. And we are looking at expanding some of our sidewalk spaces at Pack Square and at the Iron. And there might be some possible changes, such as moving, not removing, keywords, moving, not removing the benches at Pack Square.
Okay.
And possibly other things such as the Spiritex kiosk.
Yeah, I have heard about that.
And the triangular sign that is there at Pack Square.
Which is good, because that's just horribly placed.
Well, I think at one point it was that square was designed a little different, but with time, as such an example is in front of the Woolworth, there's that pole that's like right in the middle of the sidewalk. That's old infrastructure. There's no reason for that to be there. No reason whatsoever. At one point in time, the road came up to that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't anymore. Now, as far as the 100-foot distance limits, they've tabled the scheduling, which is good because that would have forced a lot of folks out of town. They've tabled the boxes, quote unquote. I'm making air quotes here. I know you can't see it, folks. But they've tabled the confined artistic spaces, and but they haven't totally tabled the 100-foot distance requirements, which is really making us nervous. And so I wanted to specifically talk about that portion of it with you, because this directly affects you in particular, along with a lot of our human statues and our silent performers or semi-silent performers who aren't necessarily gathering a crowd themselves.
Yeah.
And so, tarot readers, another good example, our friend Summer Zachary. This also directly affects her. What's it, you were talking about how good it is to have that symbiotic relationship working next to another performer. I do see you up at Pack Square on a consistent basis, and Pack Square is one of those areas that our city believes is too congested.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that, first of all, do you believe this area is too congested? Second of all, do you believe that 100-foot distance requirements will fix this?
I do believe it's too congested. I mean, I sit on that corner, pretty much all the time, and so I'm observant, so I see where a lot of it comes from. Two of the main things would be, like you brought up, the map, the kiosk. If that's removed, that opens up so much space. And also, if they are planning on moving the Spiritex kiosk as well, right there, your congestion problems almost seem completely gone. Those are the two main things that would open up a wide amount of space. But the 100-foot rule seems too extreme. That seems like a bit much. I think that there should be some like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not so much with laws passed, but just between buskers on that corner, like you'll get a little too, or sometimes too many of the silent buskers all setting up on top of each other. Not so much like on that actual corner, but right where like the musicians set up. And that just needs to be something where together we control that. We say, hey, look, let's not have too many. Let's not kill this for ourselves.
Right, and even then, 100-foot to deal with that situation
Way too
seems
much.
pretty intense because our musicians are already setting up a decent distance away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no reason that 100-foot experience should apply to our silent buskers.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me personally, it seems more of an issue of differentiating what is appropriate and not appropriate and finding a way to put it into law.
Definitely.
And yeah, it does get congested. I've seen it too. And Lordy knows that hen girl is so nice, and she's so nice. I really, really like playing music next to her. But and then we also get balloons. We
Mm-hmm.
get tarot readers. We get folks sometimes doing things that are considered illegal. I'm using air quotes, folks. I know you can't see it. Such as selling paintings and
Mm-hmm.
jewelry and cards and whatnot.
I've even seen masseuses out there,
Yeah. People fishing for change, people doing paintings, people doing caricatures.
Yeah, fishing for change, that's for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, face painting. There's all sorts of things. Yeah, so it's just a matter of really finding a way to keep these aspects, or these creative aspects of our Asheville street culture, still being able to be put in play at these spots. Because if you tell these performers, and these performers aren't necessarily gathering a crowd, but they are in their own aspect.
Mm-hmm.
That they can't perform in these blocks, these high impact areas, then we start having these performers setting up in these spaces that are big enough for large bands to be playing, and those large bands only have like 2 spots that they can be. And it is absolutely not fair whatsoever to tell these non-audible buskers that they can't play in these high impact areas because they also have to make a living. And so right now we have this ecosystem that works out, and this is how we've been doing it, and this is what works, and we need the city not to shatter that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, I feel like a lot of it just comes down to, if anything, strengthening the busker community as far as like us all knowing each other and
Right.
like the respect for each other and respect for the businesses, because it's all symbiotic in the end. We all gotta work together.
Yeah, shout out to John Flair, who's been really, really helping out with our busker situation here. He's the owner and chef at Rhubarb.
Oh, I love that
And,
place.
Yeah, and he and his staff, and also the folks over at Pisana and the Noodle Shop and Bamba are
Noodle
just
Shop.
so supportive of our buskers, and they are having some issue with some riffraff there on that corner.
Mhm.
And that again is an issue with communication, appropriate police enforcement,
Mhm.
and just kind of reconfiguring the way some of our public space works.
Absolutely.
We can do this without crushing our busking ecosystem. It is possible. It is.
Mm-hmm. We just gotta not be so gung-ho on just passing new laws and doing it quickly, which I was
Exactly.
very relieved to hear about them tabling the ordinances they wanted to change, because once you do it, it's the chances of changing that are so just astronomically low,
Well, they don't seem to realize what kind of impact ordinances like that have on an ecosystem like we have. You start scheduling buskers, then that's okay. First of all, if you're registering and scheduling musicians, You should be paying them a booking fee because that's what you're doing.
Hmm.
It's not busking anymore. Don't exploit us.
Absolutely. So I have a poem I wrote about Asheville while I was waiting in your little waiting room over here. And then I thought maybe when I'm done with this, you could put on a song, but first give me a topic, and you could kind of see my my quickness here and see.
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right. So Thomas Wolfe's nostalgic cry to all of us, "Look homeward, angel," referring to a heavenly point, snuggled but not hidden within stoic folds of winding blue ridges. In this valley, with French Broad rolling timelessly, carrying us along sidewalks of red brick, tessellated, sealed together with the mortar upon which these foundations rest, the viscous mixture, one half family bloodlines mixed with restrained depression, hard time tears, helpings of unearthly toil, sweat, elbow grease poured by unmeasured gallons in order to ensure better lives, better times. A gulp of moonshine, and lastly, to add solidity, bits of rocks and dirt scraped from the boots, from the souls of transient hobos who knows there's a nice lady lives here. There's a nice lady who lives here. Asheville breeds the stubborn and intense of will, for no matter which way you go on these old streets, it's always uphill. But on our travels, we remain entertained. The Appalachians breed a rowdy vibration and energy, not hindered by lack of instruments, for some are masters of washtubs, some are composers of spoons. Reinforcing that timeless truth that in face of sadness and sorrow, of life's burdensome toil, the will to express, to smile will find a way. And Asheville is a haven. Asheville is my newfound home. You like it?
Yes, very much so.
Very cool.
Very much so. Written right here at WPVM, folks. So if you're just now tuning in, we've got Phil Krell here. And he's a street poet, word extraordinaire, a wordsmith. And we've posted links to his Instagram on our Busker broadcast page, so you can find him if you're interested in what he's doing, and so on and so forth. What do you think?
Well, when people have trouble coming up with a topic, generally I just ask them, what do you find to be the most beautiful thing in the world?
The most beautiful thing in the world? Free speech.
Free speech? Okay. Now, if you had to build an image, like, what would you say exemplifies free speech? Like, I know, right? I make people work. You got to think of it.
Wow.
So,
my eyes just got really big. I didn't even get to see that.
They did. They were huge. But yeah, what does free speech mean to you?
Free speech is how to tell the world what I'm thinking. You know, without free speech, you don't have. You're just being gagged, suffocated.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Gagged, suffocated. And what does expressing freely feel like to you?
It feels like flying.
Feels like flying?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Fine. Let's see. Have you ever been in a situation where you couldn't express yourself freely?
Yes.
What does that feel like?
Feels stifling. Like you can't fully be yourself.
Okay. So I can work with that.
Oh, goodness.
That's all I need. So if you want to put on a song, and then when we come back, I will have you a poem.
Oh, that's awesome. We're gonna play a little bit of Chris Rodriguez. This is my busking partner, and I love him to death. He just put this album up for sale on Bandcamp, so Google it. Here you go. Here's Good and Greasy.
Bake me a whole cake every hour. Keep my skillet good and greasy all the time, Skillet good and greasy all the time. Well, honey, if you say so, I never work no more. I lay around your shanty all the time, Keep your skillet good and greasy all the time. In my sack, bloodhounds on my track. I'm pulling for my shanty way back home, I'm home for my shanty way back home. If they beat me to the door, I lay 'em out on the floor. Keep my skillet good and greasy all the time, My skillet good and greasy all the time. Down the street, I stole a ham of meat. Keep my skillet good and greasy all the time, Skillet good and greasy all the time. I'm gonna buy me a jug of brandy. I'm gonna give it all to Mandy. Gonna keep it drunk and woozy all the time, Keep my skillet good and greasy all the time.
All right, folks. So that was a little bit of Chris Rodriguez, who just came out with he just put that album for sale on the interweb. You can find it on Bandcamp. And I'll post that link here in a second, too, so you could find it, because I love him so much. Yeah, so we're here with Phil Krell, and we've been talking about street poetry and what that's like, and I was having a conversation with him about free speech, and so he's doodling away here. I'm watching him. He's looking pretty intent.
Yeah, it's funny when I do it for people, they'll like try and continue to talk to me, and I just act like they're not there. Unless there's always someone that tries to like sneak up right beside me and read it while I'm writing, and when it comes to that, I can be pretty rude. I'm like, hey, you know.
Yeah. Give me a sec.
But all right. So a poem about free speech. There is no force behind this. My lips my lips part, and as air rolls out, a gentle flow picks up words and utterances. Solidified oneric wisps, lightning bugs which ignite and lift me loftily. I fly on my words unrestrained, soar on true words, sovereign love gained.
That's pretty intense. I really, I really, really enjoy poetry that is very direct in an artistic way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how else to put that. Do you like Octavio Paz?
I've never read Octavio Paz.
He's one of my favorites.
Describe him to me.
He's very abstract and very, very direct at the same time, which is kind of a strange combination to me. And so I really like reading his stuff because it's very similar to the way I think, I guess. Is the best way of putting it.
Very cool. That description have you ever heard of Pablo Neruda?
Yeah.
Would you describe him
similar.
similar? Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorites. Pablo Neruda, like, if I'm having a bad day or if I feel writer's block, which does happen, he has this way where, I guess it's just how poems work, how really you're trying to paint an image within someone's head. And he kind of like bounces around rather than like building up the scene in like a linear format where it's like this, but rather it's like creating the image simultaneously. I don't know, it's hard to describe.
Well, what do you do when you have writer's block? I mean, does that happen with you sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. So if I'm handwriting, I will write with my right hand. That's something I learned I saw Stephen King speak when I was living in Florida, and that was one of his main things that he said would help writer's block, is that writing
Writing with the opposite hand you normally do?
Yeah, because it works with the other side of your brain. And
wow.
Yeah, so you're stimulating your brain in a different way.
I just learned something new today. That's kind of cool.
Interesting, right? And it definitely works. It takes some time to like get it down where you can actually write with your other hand. But
the more you know.
Yeah, man. But I'll do that, or I'll just focus on reading. And I'm always juggling like 4 or 5 different books to get like a few different voices in my head at the same time.
Well, what are you reading now?
I'm really excited about this. It's called The 7 Pillars of Wisdom, which, have you ever heard of the movie Lawrence of Arabia?
Mm-hmm.
It's that story, but written by T. Lawrence is the author. And he just had a very beautiful mind, and like what he did in that story, in which like he was like bringing the Arab people to revolt against their rulers, their oppressors, which was the Turkish government back in those times. It's just very interesting. It's very passionate, and I don't know. It's interesting to see the way he talks about it, and he was an amazing man. Like, I think he was 17, and he said he wanted to on foot travel around Arabia and see all the castles and places that were big in the Crusades, and everyone told him he couldn't do it. He went there and did it, and he wrote this book. It's like a 700-page book, lost it, and then was able to write the entire thing from memory. Like, he was a genius. And,
wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I don't know, my whole life, I was always kind of like a weird kid when I was younger, and I liked reading. Reading was such a safe thing, and it was a way to like explore different parts of the world. And there would be these writers I would come across where just one line I would read and be like, this guy gets me. So although like my family I was never very close with, and whatever was going on with school and all that, these guys who I would probably never meet and wrote these words years before, like I felt like they understood me, and that ended up being why I wanted to be a writer, was because I wanted to do that for someone else.
Are you familiar with David Joe Miller?
David Joe. He added me on Facebook. That's about as familiar I am of him.
Right, David Joe Miller is the storytelling guy.
Oh yeah.
He is the storytelling guy. If he knows all the storytellers, and if there's a good story, then he's going to go out there to find it. And he hosts these open mic nights that are all spoken word. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about doing something like that, or going out to some of these?
I was actually going to go on Wednesday to the Altamont.
Yeah.
Is that the one he does?
Well, no, he's got one Wednesday. It's also Wednesday, but his is over at the Buffalo Nickel. His next one is, I got pulled up here, Wednesday, July 20th at the Buffalo Nickel at 7 p.m. And, he's the storytelling guy. He's great.
Very
He's great,
cool.
but those kinds of events are always kind of fun, and so I was kind of curious if you'd ever...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, I started sharing poetry through spoken word. I'd gone through some things in my life, and kind of had this big life change, and so I started writing more vigorously because I needed a way to express. And so a friend of mine told me about a spoken word open mic, and I was like, you know what, I'll give this a shot. And it was such a crazy experience because I was terrified, like standing up. I wasn't used to sharing poetry, or even, especially in that format, like spoken word's very like rhythmic, very intense. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and I thought it was horrible. But then afterwards, I had people come up to me and be like, how'd you do it like that? I'm like too scared to do that. And that blew my mind. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I was the scared one. And ever since then, I just haven't had a problem sharing. But yeah, awesome. Spoken word's been a big thing for me.
I'm just now starting to get into the storytelling bit over the last couple of years. And it was a big step for me to go into sharing things that were so personal, and so I really admire what you do. Being able to give those kinds of words out like that is a very giving thing. Very, very much so.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't know how much time we had left, but I do have a spoken word that I could do if you would like me to.
Sure. We got about 10 minutes left or so in our program. We got the Buskets coming on next, and
cool.
they're some of my favorite kids.
All right. I might mess up. It's been a little while since I've done this one. This is like older Phil, so let's see.
Older Phil?
Older Phil, yeah. So are you not entertained? There's numerous shows being played, all commenced in bloody battles for your attention, glossy eyes shining, not a light from the inside, for that is long since gone. But reflections, cold LCD screens shining with advertisements lobbed and ready in back pockets. For as a restless mind falters, stumbling off dark pathos and thought, pull the pin of a smoke grenade, for the way is clear with your eyes shut. Are you not entertained? We sit in the floor seats of a crumbling coliseum watching violence, not as a storm of extremity, merely the playing out of mundane faux natural inclinations at some point hoisted up as a rule of thumb. This is how we spend our vacations. Jeering the winners who in the process became the poster children for a way of life they wish to have never have lived. Jeering the losers whose places will submit to pressure and steam, washing and cleaning, and in a different loop, a different life, we see ourselves as winners, are uninhibited by the past refuse, moving into another's cage only to eventually be jeered upon as we crack, finding solace only in the war songs of our own hearts coming under attack. We work and struggle to climb and gain weary walks surrounded by jagged thoughts and treacherous meditations, stacking up collecting dream material that never quite made the transition into the real. So now, with saggy eyes and worry lines, we scream out not for sleep but respite, and even that doesn't truly exist, so we suffice in thoughts of fairy tales. Heaven, no, Narnia. Not realizing that this too is long since gone, for the wardrobe has been remodeled into a gun cabinet. For we will sacrifice our lives, our freedom, our planet, as long as you respect my Second Amendment. So now, with storms brewing and the dark night of the soul ever encroaching, we look to freeze cryogenically our simple successes and few victories in narcotic ice, barely realizing how much we don't understand the physics of it. Happiness and fulfillment do not stay stagnant. They either progress or degrade. Are you still not entertained? I'm not. I'd much prefer to refer to videos of cats, lost narcissists, spouting poisonous opinions neatly wrapped in 140 characters hashtagged for easy access rather than being met with the cold hard facts. Missteps in depression being cured by the pure and holy sacrament of validation, to sit and be coddled rather than to stand outside in the fluctuating climate of truth. Instead, give me a steady stream of air-conditioned fallacies, our choices, our actions, our indecisions being the extinguisher of inspiring flames. Greatness is an abstraction that we don't want. So in this last effort to stare wide-eyed and sober into the mouth of this systematic Leviathan, we have one chance, one match on this windy night, but are all too scared to strike it. For rather than to be a failure, I'd much prefer to be entertained.
That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right, folks, we've had Phil Krell in here, and we have posted links to his Instagram on the interweb. If you're interested, and which I'm sure you are if you've been listening, you should go in there and click on there and subscribe and whatnot. You can find him downtown hanging around with his typewriter once in a while, and it's pretty fun to catch up with him, so I would definitely consider doing so if you haven't before. Or at least stop and say hi and tell him you heard him here on the broadcast and whatnot. We're going to have the Buskets coming in here in a second. And you got any shout-outs or anything you're wanting to say hello to? Any folks, loved ones?
Yeah, I want to say hi to Robert Henley Tortora and Lori and Scully and Scooby.
There you go.
There you go.
Thanks. We've had Phil Krell in here for the last little bit. Again, go on there and click and subscribe on his stuff. You can find out more about Asheville busking at avlbuskers.org. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to play a little bit of 13 strings and a $2 bill. These folks just got back into town. They used to be here pretty consistently. If you remember Nora, the notorious Nora Jean, tap dancing mandolin player, and Wyatt Yerth, the banjo picker, looks a little bit like Yosemite Sam. But they're some pretty awesome folks, and we're going to play this right now and get the Buskets in here and settle down for a little bit and chill with them. Here we go.